Ratification of an agreement. Ratification, what is that as a term? You may have heard it before, the ratification of, even back in US history, ratification of the Constitution or of an amendment. It is a legal concept in the principal agent relationship, well, within a lot of other things in the legal world as well, but it allows a principal to retroactively approve an agent's action, even if the agent lacked actual or apparent authority at the time. Some key points we will see here, but as we go through, before we go through, just an example. I did mention this prior, but I'll give you an example right now. You may have an employee who works for you whose job it is to talk to only one vendor and get contracts from that one vendor. But if the employee goes and talks to a different vendor, so they did not have the authority to do that, they had apparent authority to do that. They talk to a different vendor, but they get such a good deal from that other vendor that once they tell the principal's like, all right, I know you went out of your authority, you didn't have the authority to do that, but legally, you had apparent authority, and legally that vendor entered into a contract with you. I'm going to approve this. So it's retroactively approving the agent's action, even though the agent did not have the authority to do that. And again, like, it just because it is a good deal. So like maybe it's like I am trying to act on the best interest of my principal as a sales agent, or a purchasing agent, but I just didn't have the time to tell them. So I just went ahead and did it. I knew it was a good decision, and then told the principal. The principal said, "Okay, awesome, really appreciate it. Let me approve that." Examples and some key points here. The agent must have taken an action without the principal's prior authorization or knowledge, but you can only ratify something if this was done without their knowledge. So an agent signs a lease for office space on behalf of the principal without authorization, so they did not have authorization to do so. Now, the principal may choose to ratify the lease after the fact. That obviously depends on whether it's a good deal or not, or if they want this office space or not. The principal must have legal capacity and knowledge of material facts related to the action being ratified. So if the principal just doesn't know about this, then they can't ratify it. It also makes sense. Maybe somehow the agent signs this lease for an office space, but the principal never finds out about it. If they don't know about it and they don't have the capacity to do it, then this person would, they would not have the ability to ratify it. The principal learns that the agent negotiated a lower price for a shipment of goods. The principal must be aware of the new price before ratifying the agreement. Just again, simply put, you cannot agree upon something if you don't know about it. The principal must explicitly approve the actions, either expressly or implied. The principal sends a written confirmation to the agent approving the unauthorized purchase of equipment, or starts using the equipment, which implies approval. It's another good one. So you could go and buy a bunch of supplies for your employer. The employer did not approve you to do it, but if the employer starts using those goods, then it's as if they are ratifying, agreeing, accepting that it happened. The agent must have acted in good faith without personal interests or conflict of interest. An agent without personal gain or conflict of interest signs a contract with a supplier on behalf of the principal, even though they didn't have the authority to do so. That can still be ratified. And then lastly here, once ratified, the principal becomes bound by the contract or agreement. Now, after ratifying, another way to think about it, after agreeing retroactively that it is okay, an unauthorized contract with a vendor, the principal becomes responsible for fulfilling the contract's terms, such as making payments. Very good. Make sure you're familiar here, and you can apply these two questions. Continuing on, ratification can apply to illegal or unauthorized actions, but does not make them legal or authorized retroactively. So in this case, an agent signs an illegal contract on behalf of the principal. Now, even if the principal ratifies it, the contract may still be unenforceable due to its illegal nature. We see here a lot of these concepts kind of going with each other. We talked earlier about agency relationships that would not be valid because they're illegal. So we see just lots of things that kind of go hand in hand as we're running through. Next up, ratification is not a substitute for actual or apparent authority. In this case, a real estate agent without proper authorization signs a purchase agreement for property. Ratification can resolve the issue, but it actually does not replace the need for the agent to have the authority to sign in the first place. Next up, the entire contract must be ratified, and the third party doesn't need to be notified of the ratification. Now, an agent signs a contract with the third party on behalf of the principal. The principal decides to ratify the contract and doesn't need to inform the third party about the ratification process. So in those examples we said before about where an agent and you're negotiating a better deal, a better price, the third party never needs to know that you didn't have the actual authority to do that in the first place. So that is something to know there. And lastly here, if the third party withdraws or the act becomes illegal, the contract cannot be ratified. When an agent signs a contract to purchase materials for the principal, before ratification, the third party withdraws from the contract or the materials become illegal to trade. Think about it. There have been many materials that have become illegal to use in certain situations throughout the years. Let's think like asbestos or lead or anything like that. Not that lead is illegal, but In certain uses, if you're trying to use it to create pipes, something like that, that is what we're talking about there. The principal can no longer ratify the contract. In summary here, ratification, this is a legal tool allowing principals to retroactively approve their agents' actions, helping resolve issues arising from agents acting without proper authorization, while requiring careful consideration of each situation's facts and circumstances. Sounds good to you? Sounds good to me? Let's keep moving along. Here's an example of a ratification of agreement. We saw just one-liner examples. Here's a much more in-depth example. So we got Molly, without authority, contracted to buy office furniture from Green Corp for XYZ Corporation. Molly told Green that she was acting on XYZ's behalf. For XYZ to ratify the contract with Green, XYZ must know all material facts relating to the contract at the time it is ratified. In order to ratify the contract, and this is ratification of an entire unauthorized act, between Molly and Green, XYZ, who is the principal, must have knowledge of all material facts of the transaction and want to ratify it at the time of the ratification. The principal, which is XYZ, does not need to give notice of the intent to ratify because the third party already presumed that the principal was bound through the Agents Act. So we saw before, the third party doesn't need to know about this. It's kind of like, all right, not let them know we messed up here and didn't have any authority to do so. There's no requirement that the agent must have acted reasonably and in the principal's best interest. The principal is given the option to ratify even if the agent acted recklessly and in her own interest. Now, we did mention that that is a responsibility of the agent to act in their best interest. However, even if this happened and the agent did not have the principal's best interest in heart, they can still ratify it because the principal, kind of like the principal's protections here, remedies for the principal. If your agent goes off the rails, does something you didn't approve of, and ratification of an unauthorized act does not require that the party acting be a general agent. Just points here to keep in mind. You could see these multiple choice questions. You could see this in a big sim, but much more likely in multiple choice.
Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.Examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.